What's up, everybody? I don't normally turn the feed on 2-3 minutes early, but why just look at a thumbnail for the next 2 minutes? Hangman Page, new AEW champion. It's time. It's time. We'll start the show officially in 2 minutes. Give everybody a chance to get situated. Hope everybody's doing well. 4-hour pay-per-view seemed to go pretty smoothly. Some matches knocked it out of the park. Wow. I don't want to give anything away yet because I took a lot of notes tonight. I will tell you, and you'll hear me say this again in a couple of minutes. Pay-per-view recaps are so much more fun when the pay-per-views are fun. And I'm not just talking 1 or 2 matches, but the pay-per-view really delivered. I mean, thought it was pretty damn good. Oh, you like my Macho Man? Oh, yeah. Everybody wants me to comment on the Baron. Everybody wants me to comment about the Baron. I will. Give me 2 minutes. Everyone get situated. We're about to start it off. And, I started messing around with the new microphone setup. I got to fix it a little bit because we can't block the little Daphne tribute in the background. So I'm going to start moving things around. All right, so are we ready? Are we ready to do this? Everybody situated? I think we're ready to go, right? All right. Let me fade to black for like 5 seconds and let's officially kick this off. Good evening, everybody. Well, it's technically November 14th, 2021. Welcome to this AEW Full Gear pay-per-view recap and review. And as I was telling our great chat room a few moments ago, these recaps are so much more fun to cover when you really enjoy the pay-per-view. And boy, did I enjoy this one. It had a couple of down moments. Junior Dos Santos, man, the guy was impressing me. Doing the suplex, doing the moonsault. And then Jericho. Junior, and he's bent over the rope that extra second or two. And I'm like, oh, God, this is why you do not bring people outside to do high-profile spots. Leave Raschke on the floor, taken out by a toaster. But, hell, if that's the biggest complaint I can make tonight, this pay-per-view was awesome. Hangman Page, as the Young Bucks said, they nodded. It's time. It's time. Kenny Omega, look, last year I said many times I thought Kenny Omega's New Year's resolution was to have such a dominant 2021 that he would be Wrestler of the Year. And just because of his character change and then preserving his career, by pulling back a little bit, especially since this man does so much behind the scenes, you can't help but admit that for the last 6 to 8 months, especially, Kenny Omega's turned into a, sports entertainer. I mean, when a match really needs to deliver, he does, no question. But if you look at all the skits and the interference and the stupid shit with Brandon Cutler, and by the way, Brandon Cutler should be fired tonight after that spray shot during the 6-man. But I hope that the storyline going forward is the Young Bucks feeling that Kenny Omega has become a shell of himself, that he's become more of a sports entertainer. Now, that wouldn't really make all that much sense when you see the Young Bucks coming out in $1,500 shoes, and I might even be downplaying the value. But we'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about it. Okay, a lot of you out there popped like I did for Baron von Raschke. That's all the people need to know. I love the Baron. I've talked about the Baron on my shows for so long. Nice to see him. Little comic spot with Ethan Page, but I kind of had a little bit extra appreciation for it after Karate Man. I thought that was pretty cool. Baron von Raschke. God bless him, man. God bless him. I guarantee there were a lot of people out there like, wait a minute, he's still alive? He's still alive? Yeah, he's still alive. Looks pretty good. He was having a ball tonight. So anyway, big shout out to everybody who was joining me. I know it's late. I know we're tired. We just went through a 4-hour pay-per-view plus a 30-minute pre-show. So we will definitely get into everything. Now, I'm telling you, he's still alive. And, look, some people may get mad at what I'm about to do. Shout out to Nero Fay. Thank you very much, my friend. I will definitely check out the email. And why does it seem like your super chat doesn't show? Oh, that's weird. Very weird. Doesn't show, the value, but it's all good. It's all good. Quick Killings with the 5 spot. Spent so long thinking about Kenny and Hangman's tag team, completely forgot about the Young Bucks not believing in Hangman first. Long-time storytelling. Look, let me say this about the long-time storytelling. And let's be honest here. When everybody says that it was a 2-year storyline, it wouldn't have been a 2-year storyline if COVID didn't hit. Let's not forget that aspect. Sometimes a story can take a year or two to develop and flourish. But this was postponed quite a while. But I tell you what, I know a lot of people were concerned early on when Bryan Danielson won his match. Oh my God, they're going to do babyface versus babyface. Do you remember what we said last week with the predictions? Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson. Would not be surprised if they go that route down the line. It's definitely a possibility if you insist that you need to bring a heel in there. Now, I think AEW will allow a rematch clause, so we'll see what happens. But I want to open up with something a little different. And look, not everybody out there is going to be thrilled at what I'm about to say. But, one thing that I always vowed on these shows, even going back to 1997, doing hotlines, is I'm always straight up with all of you. I'll express my opinions even if they're unpopular. I tell it like it is. I don't do clickbait stuff. I don't do emotional stuff. And, there's people out there that do it and do it very well. I want to talk for a minute about Cody. Now, I have vented on the shows why I'm not a fan of Cody right now and why the fans boo the shit out of Cody. And I think tonight was probably the best way to explain this. Now, we talked about the reality show, and I'm going to be quick with this because we're going to run through this recap quickly. Tomorrow, for about an hour, 90 minutes, the most, we're doing a call-in show. To sit down with yours truly. So tomorrow, if you want to talk about the pay-per-view, you'll have the opportunity to call in. Tomorrow, all we're doing is calls. When I connect to that server, the phone lines will be open. The entire show is going to be calls. It's just a test run. But hey, you want to call in and talk about the pay-per-view, talk about anything that I said tonight, tomorrow you'll have your opportunity. The only question is, what time do we start? It's either going to be 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock Eastern. I know a lot of you like Sunday Night Football, so we may actually start at 6. Some of you, depending on how the game is going, maybe we'll start at 8. I haven't decided yet. But I want to just tell you something very, very brief with Cody. And I honestly think that this might sort of be a little common sense, but I think this is the best way we could summarize Cody going forward. Because if you tune into Tony Khan and QT Marshall, they're all of a sudden on this kick comparing Cody to John Cena and Roman Reigns. Yeah, I'm sorry. Tonight, if you heard let Eddie, Kingston, CM Punk, weird. I didn't hear kids and girls chanting for one side or the other. When they were chanting for MJF and Darby Allin, I didn't hear, unless with all due respect, the kids in Minneapolis all talk like this. And all the beautiful females that were in the crowd in Minneapolis all talk like this because the chants on both sides were male, dominantly male. I'm trying to find a clip where let's go Cody, Cody sucks chants sounds like kids and girls. It's a lie. It's not true. And QT Marshall trying to cover it up too, instead of just being honest with everybody. And I think this is the best way I could describe it for everybody. I want you to look at something. See this picture? Take note of the guy in the wheelchair. His name is Ryan. I don't know exactly what his illness is, but I was told from a few people that it's terminal. All right. Yesterday they had a charity bowling. I don't want to call it tournament, but they had some charity bowling. He was there. And apparently his situation is terminal. And through, I guess, this charity and talking to AEW and Cody, they not only gave him a ringside ticket tonight with his family, but Cody gave his belt to this guy. Now, if you go on social media and you look at his mom's Twitter account, Kathy, you know, she talks about that this is his final wish. All right. And, you know, you look at that picture, and as much as I have criticized Cody, there is no way that that generosity and that kindness out of Cody is fake. The best way, and I think this is really the only way we should address Cody as far as booing and our dissatisfaction, I think the best way we could go forward is from what we got with this match tonight. The reason why the fans boo Cody is a little bit why they booed CM Punk tonight. Look, when CM Punk came out, almost the entire crowd was singing his song. Then they started booing him. And the thing with Cody is this. They know, everybody knows Cody works his freaking ass off for AEW. Cody has done more than you. Look at the Eddie Kingston article. And you see Cody giving him the opportunity. And you see Cody's name come up a lot with a lot of good stuff. But when it comes to television, when it comes to the shows, when it comes to pay-per-views, the AEW fans is similar to NXT fans cheering for Legado del Fantasma, cheering for Adam Cole, cheering for some of the heels. Why? Because AEW fans recognize the people on camera. On camera, we appreciate the hard work behind the scenes. Give someone a trophy, give someone a raise, give someone a medal, give them a promotion. But when someone doesn't compete that often in the ring, and then he comes out with this extravagant entrance, I talked about it the last 2 weeks. You look at the Dynamite intro, the first female you see on the opening montage is Brandy. Nothing against Brandy. But when this guy shows up randomly, the old savior, almighty Jesus, and then getting into this passionate promos, and I understand, his background ethnicity wise, but when they do this international day or whatever it was, and there's 4 or 5 people on the cover, and he's one of them, surrounded by Latinos and blacks, the perception of Cody is that he's a white guy. And the thing is that you take all of these things and it just rubs people the wrong way. Every single AEW fan knows how important that guy is for AEW. But when the guy, it seems that because of what he does behind the scenes, he could just pop up that woman from TNT and he comes walking down the rafters and this big thing. And then he goes over on a go-go. And it feels like he's got to go over even tonight. People are like, was that even necessary for him to win tonight? So that's the reason why people boo Cody. It's not just really the personal stuff. It's the lack of appearing on TV. If that guy was on TV wrestling every week or almost every week, win or lose, you see how quickly those fans turn around. It's not about, he's got to be a heel. If he turns heel, then it's like, oh, now when we boo, it makes all the sense. No, they just want the on camera to match the backstage work that he does. And when he doesn't appear, or he's got to have this crazy ass intro and shows up like the superhero, he heals racism and all this other stuff. People are like, come on, man, just work your ass off. Be an entertainer. That's why we watch. That's why I don't like the Tony Khan tweets when he says, hey, everybody, we really believe that we treat our wrestlers better than anyone else. Tune in tonight. Because if anybody's noticed, especially Rampage, when he does, the ratings go down and down and down and down and down and down and down. No World Series. No Friday Night Football. It's getting colder out. More people are staying home. All Cody's got to do, if he's going to be a character on TV, he's got to come across as one of the guys, and not just simply because he makes the save for random people. I think that's the best way to put it. I praise that guy for his generosity and the stuff that he does, but that's not the reason why people boo him. So anyway, enough of that. Before we get into the matches, let's also talk about this. Woo! Jay Lethal. Yeah, he is now officially all elite. He came out today in a surprise. He is now part of All Elite Wrestling, obviously, with the situation going on with Ring of Honor. You're going to see a few people, showing up. And that doesn't mean that Jay Lethal is not going to work other promotions. Of course he is. But Jay Lethal now signing that contract with All Elite Wrestling, which makes AEW his first priority on his list. And right away, Jay Lethal will be taking on Sammy Guevara this Wednesday for the TNT Championship. Is Sammy going to lose? No. But very cool. Anybody that goes back with me on these shows 20 years, it's got to be 20 years, maybe 16, 17 years. I still remember the days of going to Jersey All Pro Wrestling and sitting in the rafters and it would be my right, the top right corner of the Jersey arenas where they would have it, the halls, would be Jay Lethal's family. Just loudest cheering him on, just his biggest cheerleaders. Every single show that I went to that Jay Lethal was on the card, there's his family rooting him on, cheering him on. Jay Lethal, I've always said, is just a class guy. I know there's been some accusations here and there, never proven. The guy, honestly, the people that I know, nothing bad to say about Jay Lethal whatsoever. So the fact that he is now a part of AEW, it's an extra dagger as far as Ring of Honor goes. But, this is the first of a few more. So very cool. Very cool. Now, as far as Tomohiro Ishii goes, that's a niche. That's a niche. Nothing against Ishii. But let's be honest. 95% of fans do not watch Tomohiro Ishii. I don't, chaos. He's going to appear on Dynamite Wednesday, teaming up with Orange Cassidy versus the Butcher and the Blade. I will tell you this. If any of you out there that never saw him work, if they allow him to work, and I expect them that they will, you'll be very entertained. You will be entertained, but this is little niche, for certain people out there. That's not going to be a big ratings draw as far as AEW goes. And you know what the problem is too? We talked about it with Kenta. Remember Kenta? I mean, the announcers almost passed out with excitement, talking about the forbidden wall, the forbidden door, open, wide open. What, did Kenta have one match and he's gone? When we had others show up, it's weird. They show up and they happen to have 9 other indie wrestling events in the area. And then they go bye-bye. So Forbidden Door was because of COVID. COVID opened the Forbidden Door. Now, as promotions are now starting to get good revenue, having fans in attendance, and being able to rebuild a little bit, Forbidden Door seems to be closing a little bit. Why? If you want good shit, if you want matches that you never thought you would see, you want fantasy matches, why does there have to be a pandemic to do it? Why does there have to be some special circumstance to do it? Why? Because it's business. It was never about, oh, I want to give, of course, Tony Khan wants to benefit and capitalize from it, and he did a damn good job of it. But if you want to give people innovative and this and that, when you hear the door closing, Impact, and I heard Impact's rating this week was down to 79,000. 79,000. Ouch. So Hangman Page wins the title. No bottled water tonight. We drink San Pellegrino. I am so glad that he got that title. I know people that are not AEW fans think, oh, he's something missing about him. Maybe for you. But for AEW fans, that's the guy they want as champion right now. And AEW delivered a spectacular pay-per-view tonight. Before the pay-per-view started, we had a buy-in match. And we also had a little confrontation, which obviously is going to lead into Dynamite or Rampage, I would think Dynamite. Now we have the storyline that everybody wants Dante Martin in their camp. Team Taz and others, now the Acclaimed. And Max Caster cutting a promo tonight, and he's talking about everybody who has shown interest in Dante Martin. And when he got to Lio Rush, I wrote it down. Max Caster said something like, Lio Rush can't handle this kind of, Lio Rush can't handle this kind of environment. He's about to go into his 15th retirement. See, I don't have, why Max Caster wears the headset, right? So he could sync up his rap to the beat. So I have no beat over here, so I can't go like, do. Lio Rush can't handle this kind of environment. He's about to go into his 15th retirement. Oh! Especially that I'm a old Italian white guy, it's not going to sound that good too. Unless I'm like, Lio Rush, he can't handle this environment. He's about to go into his 15th retirement. Oh! Anyway, Dante Martin pretty much said no and took them out. So we'll probably see a match on Rampage or Dynamite, which is all good. Nero Faye is asking me the Acclaimed or Hit Row. Right now, honestly, not even close, the Acclaimed. Isaiah Swerve Scott, I'm a big fan of his work. But right now, I like the Acclaimed a little bit more. Dream 101, I don't know what I said that you thought was racist, but okay. All right. So, pre-show. Oh, you know what would help? If we do this. No, if we do this. There we go. All right, let's get into these matches because I know it's late for everybody out there and there's no reason for us to spend 2 hours talking about this. I think we can make our points very blunted to the point. The pre-show, the buy-in match, Nyla Rose and Jamie Hayter versus Thunder Rosa and Hikaru Shida. Now let's be honest, okay? This match at times was not all that spectacular. I don't want to put the blame on any one person. That finish with Nyla Rose looked kind of brutal. Shida working with Nyla Rose for some reason, it's just not working. Even, other than that dive off the top turnbuckle outside the ring, Thunder Rosa doing that splash onto Jamie Hayter. Outside of that, they don't really mesh all that well. I'll tell you a match I'd like to see. that I don't think we would see anytime soon. I'd like to see Hikaru Shida versus Thunder Rosa. I think that would be a fun match to enjoy. Now, for those that maybe not have tuned in today, or maybe you just weren't online, didn't realize it, today is the 16-year anniversary of Eddie Guerrero's passing. And anybody that goes back with me, and I thought about putting it online tonight, but I wanted this to be a fun night, a fun pay-per-view, everybody paying tribute to Eddie Guerrero, and I didn't want to put up all the calls and messages from my hotline 16 years ago when he died, because I still have that. And I played it, I think, 2-3 years ago, and a lot of people were reminded. I mean, everybody was sobbing the next day. I mean, sobbing. I mean, we all sobbed, but when I put my hotline up and I said, hey, if you all want to leave a message and pay tribute to Eddie Guerrero, I will put it all together and I will share it with everybody online. And we had like 150 messages. And it got to a point that we said, no more. But lots of Eddie tributes tonight. Vicky Guerrero, obviously, in the corner of Jamie Hayter and Nyla Rose tonight. More Nyla Rose, but she loved it. She absolutely loved it. Little tidbit, 2 tidbits tonight that you may not know about. One of them you're probably like, I don't really need to know that anyway. But 2 little tidbits tonight. One about the guitarist that came out to perform for Britt Baker's match. You saw that, Rich Water Fozzy. Well, I don't think I have it handy, but if anybody remembers 2 months ago, we talked about it too. Rich Ward is the ex-husband of Daphne. It's him. I mean, he looks a lot different in 20 years from the Christmas cards I used to get. But, very, very cool to see Rich Ward tonight performing. Guy's a beast on the guitar. Reminds me a little bit of Eddie Van Halen. I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but very cool. Now, about Eddie Guerrero tonight, I've been telling everybody on the Thursday show that there's a couple of YouTube channels that I watch, and 2 in particular are people who walk through cemeteries. And I know that sounds a little odd, but they walk through cemeteries and they tell stories about tragedies, positive, negative. And, they tell the story of what happened to a person, why they passed away. And then they go see the grave. And one of the persons that I'm a big fan of is a channel by the name of Lamont at Large. If you want to go check it out after. And he has gone to a lot of wrestlers' gravesites, Ravishing Rick Rude, Miss Elizabeth, and a few others. He went last year or early this year to Eddie Guerrero's. And I know a lot of you out there have seen the stone of Eddie Guerrero on Google Images, but what you may not know is that right beside Eddie's tombstone is one that was made up for Vicky. And there is a beautiful picture of Vicky and Eddie Guerrero. And whether she remarries once, 2 times, 3 times, when it's her time to go, which we hope is not for 100 years, they made sure that she is going to be right beside him. So it's really beautiful. I mean, I don't know. I didn't do the video, so I'm not revealing anything that I shouldn't. But if you want to watch the video later, I think you'll be very touched. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So, little tidbit in case you wanted to see that. But anyway, getting back to the match itself. Match, the first half of it was okay. I tell you, a problem that seemed to happen tonight more than once is matches that were going too long. There's one match in particular that when you get towards the end of the night, you then understand why it didn't end where it did. And I'm going out of place right now for a reason. The Lucha Bros versus FTR. Something tells me 99% 99.9% of you out there will agree with me when I say that when Penta did the Three Amigos and then Ray Phoenix did the frog splash off the top rope, that's where the match should have ended. The tributes to Eddie Guerrero, having the match end at that spot, it would have been, even Jim Ross said, Tony, could you imagine if they got the 3 count right there? It would have been a match forever that everybody would always go to. Like, what a beautiful, perfect way to finish that match. But it didn't happen. The match continued for several minutes more with a awful, in my opinion, awful finish. Putting a mask on? You mean to tell me the referee is that dumb? He can't see fucking curly brown hair in the back of the mask like, hey, that's not you. That's not Dax. But there was a reason why they didn't finish right there with the frog splash. They saved it for later on in case people didn't notice it. But anyway, so the tributes for Eddie tonight were beautiful. The tag match with Thunder Rosa Karashita, they beat Jamie Hayter and Nyla Rose, and the finish was sloppy as you know what. Thunder Rosa does another one of those dives off the top turnbuckle outside the ring, squashing Jamie Hayter, looked beautiful. You know, I just pray that she doesn't ever get injured from that because that is so scary. And Sammy Guevara. Jeff Hardy moment tonight. But what ends up happening is Thunder Rosa takes out Jamie Hayter, and then we're supposed to get like a fruit roll-up from Hikaru Shida. And she like throws Nyla Rose in the corner, and Nyla Rose, and I've defended her so many times before. And look, everybody can have, you know, not the greatest match, but stumbling and bumbling, and then just like fell backwards, and it was not very good. Not to mention, if you go back and you watch that match, you know, Shida was taken out and literally like within seconds, no selling, like everything was fine. But Nyla Rose, the finish was not very good. So, you know, it was a pre-show match. Shit happens. But, you know, I think that kind of, you know, took away from it. So Charlie Conway, I know the last couple of shows you've asked the same question. Daphne Study. Am I a scientist? I'm not examining her brain. I donated to the research on behalf of all of us. And we planted almost a forest filled with trees. We planted like 30 trees in her name. I haven't heard anything. And honestly, I don't think any of us should hear anything. That is to help people in the future. We're not going to get back a study. You know, oh, it determined this. We know what was wrong, but not going to have an answer for that. And honestly, I don't want to know. I just want to remember her, you know, the best way I can. So anyway, now we have the official pay-per-view starting. And this was the opening match. MJF versus Darby Allin. Now, as far as my predictions tonight, I got 7 out of 10. This was one that I got wrong. I looked at Darby Allin losing to CM Punk. I look at Darby Allin not really on the greatest streak lately as far as wins go. And especially with everything that's been going on, I said, okay, you know, it'd be interesting, especially with Wardlow and MJF, them teasing a little bit of a fallout. Maybe Wardlow costs MJF the match. If you go, since you're watching this on YouTube, if you go and check out my description right now, I said that a lot of people feel that this is definitely worthy. King Cuteville, what's up, my brother? Thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. Thank you for the buck. The buck stops here. The Buckshot Larry. That's what we're going to call it from now on. For the dollar, the Buckshot Larry. Thank you for the Buckshot Larry. King Cuteville. Much love, my friend. A lot of people think that MJ, look, nothing's going to beat Walter and Ila Dragunov. It's not. But Darby Allin and MJF, definitely worthy to be in the top 10 list of match of the year candidates. When you vote for a match of the year candidate, yeah, there might be a match that steals it, that's going away with it. But you still got to give people options to vote on. This match deserves to be on that list. Do you know why this match and Eddie Kingston and CM Punk were my favorites? Because, yes, you have Darby Allin doing some high spots. He did the coffin drop outside to the floor, which, you know, everybody cringed, but it looked beautiful. And there was a little bit of high flying. But for the most part, this was wrestling. This was brawling. Little cheating by MJF, poke in the eye, using the ring. But there was one point during the match where MJF hit a backbreaker into a slam. And that sparked "This is awesome" chants. And it was so refreshing to see that someone didn't have to dive off the top of a building, and I'm exaggerating. You didn't have to have crazy spot through a table. A backbreaker into a slam that broke out of "This is awesome" chant. That just goes to show you that when you have good storyline, good feud, and psychology, a slam and a backbreaker triggers an awesome chant. That's why when I talk about episodic television and big, deep storylines, just because a storyline takes a while to develop doesn't mean that it's strong. Hangman Page was strong. All right. But there's a lot of others that just drag, i.e. Orange Cassidy and the Hardy family. Now, I'm not going to talk about last night's Rampage match. You know, I'll talk about that tomorrow. But this was a feud that I think a lot of people out there do not want. Look, feuds do not have to end with one match. And I think Tony Khan is starting to see that. I think the Lucha Bros and FTR are going to have a rematch based on the finish of the match. I think Eddie Kingston and CM Punk definitely should continue a little bit more. And Darby Allin and MJF is another one that should really be considered to continue. Now, remember, the whole thing about MJF said he was going to win with a side headlock takedown. And that's exactly how he won. Now, during the match, very even. You could even see at times that the match was set up to keep going back and forth. I hit you, you hit me. I nail a move on you, you nail a move on me. MJF tries the Scorpion Deathlock. Darby Allin immediately proceeds with the figure four. Then you had MJF with an awesome looking pile driver. I honestly had to rewind it because I thought Darby Allin seriously might have gotten a little bit of a stinger out of it. That's how good it looked. A pile driver to the edge of the apron. And then we had MJF to sell the story even further. That after he pile drove Darby Allin on the edge of the apron, MJF fell to the floor. And he sold it that when he fell to the floor, he landed on his knee. By the way, if you see me doing this, I don't do cocaine. I didn't take allergy medicine today, and I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. So when he fell to the floor, he sold it that he landed on his knee. Excruciating pain, and that would be the story for the remainder of the match. Then you had a flurry of pin attempts, which led to Darby and MJF doing a wheelbarrow all around the ring. Freaking crowd loved it. This is awesome chants broke out at least 2 or 3 times. Fight Forever chants broke out. A lot of MJF chants. Let's go Darby, MJF. Let's go Darby, MJF. Actually, we can't make it sound like kids and girls because it was let's go Darby, MJF. let's go. I honestly think there were some people out there that were actually on both sides of the coin. I think there were people out there going, let's go, Darby, MJF, let's go. The match was that good. I love when MJF does the thumb in the eye to pay tribute to Roddy Piper. But towards the end of the match, Shawn Spears attempts to get involved with the chair. Sting is right behind him with the bat. Sting taking care of business. Wardlow was a little strange. If you watch that segment again, Wardlow is just chilling in the back. Like, let me wait until Shawn Spears gets his ass kicked from Sting, and then I'll try to charge Sting. And Sting takes them both out. But then what happens is MJF grabs Darby Allin's skateboard, brings it in the ring, trying to get Darby Allin to hit him. Hit me. Hit me. Very, very vocal tonight. In fact, there was a fun spot where MJF was outside the ring. He was making fun of somebody at ringside, calling him Fat Boy. And as MJF is trashing somebody at ringside, here comes Darby Allin with a beautiful tope suicida. But towards the end of the match, MJF grabs the skateboard, brings it in the ring, gives it to Darby Allin. Hit me over the head. Hit me. Hit me. Because he knew if Darby hit him, he would have been disqualified. So Darby gives the skateboard to the referee. And then we have a little bit of a distraction at ringside. The referee is looking outside the ring. MJF grabs the diamond ring out of his tights, nails Darby with it, then does the headlock, side headlock, takeover, and pins him. Mark Anderson, I agree with you. MJF, look, I've said this also, and it's what I'm about to say is very fair. Most promotions over the years would not let MJF say some of the things that he has said in promos about Melanie Pillman and about some of the things. You know, people get offended when there's a little tongue-in-cheek humor with Jericho and, you know, I think it was Arlovsky's wife, whoever she was. So MJF, when you could say pretty much whatever you want and AEW hides behind, well, then no, this is just entertainment. But they don't want to come out and say that because then they're pretty much revealing that MJF, you know, just this is character. So they don't come out, but that's what it is. Jeffrey Collins, thank you very much for the $5, my friend. Should MJF be going for a TNT title shot against Sammy Guevara since he beat all of his fellow AEW pillar peers? Only if MJF was going to win the title. And I don't think you take it off of Sammy Guevara right now. Some people want to see MJF and CM Punk go at it. I personally want to see MJF and Darby Allin to continue. MJF versus Guevara would absolutely be a fun match to see happen. I don't think it's the right time, though, in my honest opinion. And thank you, everyone who loved my idea that they should be called the Core Four, taking a page from the 90, well, not the 98 Yankees, but the Yankees from the mid-90s to the 2000s. They would call Jeter, Bernie Williams, Andy Pettit, and Jorge Posada the Core Four. I know they use pillars, you know, or Jim Ross, it's pillows, but pillars. When you think of pillars, you know, any of you out there that saw my old house, you know, we had 3 pillars in the front. You know, pillars aren't done in 4s. So calling them the pillars, it's very general. I think Core 4 is the way to go. And maybe they're using the term pillars is because maybe not one of those 4, maybe one of those 4 could be leaving sooner than later. A year from now, one of those 4 could be gone. So maybe that's why they're kind of staying away from using anything with a numerical number attached to it. And if someone else starts developing, like Dante Martin, then you know what? Maybe they don't want to limit it to 4 because Dante Martin could end up being right in that Dante Martin might leapfrog some of them. Not right now, but that's possible. So MJF gets the win. Phenomenal match. Probably my favorite match of the night. Now, as we go through the recap, I might change my mind. My immediate reaction was, yeah, my favorite match of the night. So far. Next on the list, the Lucha Brothers versus FTR. By the way, Team Taz in the Skybox, scouting wrestlers. Okay. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know who they were scouting tonight. We had a little odd interference towards the end of Cody's match, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I loved the Lucha Brothers entrance. They had a phenomenal entrance. I mean, it looked like there was like military people and some pyro went off and they all like ducked out of the way. It was funny. One of the flags fell, but still a fun entrance. And by the way, Darby's entrance. Do I think Darby was in that car when it flipped around? Yeah, I do think so. If any of you didn't see it, Darby Allin's intro, they filmed him in a car and, somebody sitting there with the MJF, picture over the face. And the car, it does like some stunt work and it flips over a couple of times. And then Darby Allin with like a Molotov cocktail sets the car on fire. Pretty cool intro. We had a couple of cool intros tonight. Not over the top. I think it needed to do what it was. I'm curious what your favorite one was tonight. Hangman Page, that was leaked out actually I think it was leaked out yesterday. It feels so long that they filmed a day or two ago, Hangman Page on the horse, in Minneapolis, right near the arena. And reminded me of like New York City, late at night during COVID, just empty, barren, after a rainstorm too. Great visual. So we get the Lucha Brothers versus FTR. I know not a lot of people like the Midnight Express ripoff music. I don't call it a ripoff. I call it a tribute. FTR, I am really, really getting the Brainbusters vibes. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been saying for years that they reminded me of the Brainbusters. But being reminded of a team simply because of look and because they're just ground game, and one kind of looks like a younger Arn Anderson, doesn't mean that you feel it inside. These guys are really connecting with me as big time old school, and they've been old school all along. But now it's really, and that music helps. It really does. I know a lot of people find it corny, but that music really, really helps. If you're going to be old school, throwbacks with the attire and even the way, that they like psych out fans at ringside, and even some mannerisms, especially Dax, when he goes through the ropes sometimes. It's so Tully Blanchard. I mean, if you go back and you watch a lot of Brainbusters, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And one thing, and by the way, can everybody hear me all right? Because you see the microphone is set up differently now. So I have to make some adjustments still. But the idea is now my desk is a little free. So hopefully you could hear me pretty good. But the one thing about FTR, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the feedback. One thing about FTR that you have to admit, yes, for the last 12 months, they have not been used all that great. You go back to the last 12 months. Last year, Tag Team of the Year. This year, not even in the mention. Okay, it's not their fault. But one thing you cannot deny, going back to their match with the Young Bucks, is FTR adapts wonderfully with high flyers. You see the matches they have with high flyers. You would think, oh my God, Clash of Styles, there's no way that's going to work well. And you've seen that many times, even a match that's announced for any promotion. You have someone that's strictly a ground game fighter, and then you got someone else that's a high flyer. A lot of times people say, oh, I don't know if they're going to, mesh well. FTR is nailing it. And they had a spectacular match tonight with the Lucha Bros. I mean, they had some creative spots, even some common sense spots. There was one point where Cash takes the back of Penta's mask because he's got that extra material, and he ties it into a knot on the rope, and he's bashing Penta until the referee untied it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, why is the referee untying it? You got to go back to the old days. I mean, how many times did we see Andre the Giant when he was a heel? When he would get tied up into the ropes on the side, he'd be tied up in the middle and he can't get out. It's the referee that always would free the person. So I know it looks a little odd today, but no, that actually does make sense. Ray Phoenix early on, the story about this match early on was Ray Phoenix getting a hot tag, and Ray Phoenix with some crazy ass offense. My God, there was one point where he climbed the top turnbuckle, and Undertaker goes old school and walks halfway. He just runs across, jumps over, kicks Dax right in the head. The only two things I did not like about this match is, in my opinion, this might be nitpicky for a lot of people out there, some finishes have to be a finish. When you get cracked in the noggin, square belt shot, I mean, just totally beautiful belt shot to the head. Kicking out at 2 is kind of like, oh, I mean, sure, we don't want a good match to end, and I don't want a good match to end. Let them fight for an hour. But no need to do the belt shot then. They did the belt shot. It looked beautiful on TV. Ray Phoenix gets hit with the belt shot. He kicks out at 2. I didn't like that. There's another point during the match. This is towards the end where Tully grabbed Penta. Penta was going to go for a finisher. And Dax then tries to do the Three Amigos to pay tribute to Eddie Guerrero. The crowd is booing Dax out of the building because they don't want him to do the Three Amigos. So he gets the 2. He goes for the third one. Penta blocks it and then does his own version of the Three Amigos. Crowd loves it. Frog splash by Ray Phoenix. All pay tribute to Eddie. 2 count. And that's where the match should have ended. Period. And I truly believe a majority of you out there agree with me on that. When Penta did the Three Amigos, Ray Phoenix did the frog splash, and the crowd yelling at the top of their lungs, Eddie, Eddie, Eddie. If he would have pinned them right then and there, it would have been a beautiful finish. Sometimes you hear a story and you always hear somebody say, you wouldn't even believe that if that was written as a book. All right. And it's happened sometimes in baseball. You'll have like a crazy finish. And somebody would say, if I wrote that in a book, nobody would believe it. So sometimes you feel like, it's a little too perfect. Nah, man, that should have ended right there. And the only reason why it did not end right there is because of Chris Jericho. Please, in no way, shape, or form am I saying get angry at Chris Jericho. He did 0 wrong. But even, like I said, even Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross pointed out how perfect that match would have been if it ended right then and there, but it didn't. And it went on for many more minutes. And how the match ended was Cash goes outside and puts the mask on. You remember when they won the AAA tag titles, the Frogs or whatever they were, the Lucha Frogs? He puts the mask on, and he's not the legal man. So what ends up happening, they hit the finisher on Cash. He gets pinned. He was the wrong person in the ring, and the announcers are trying to cover this shit up, saying, oh, it backfired. Whatever plan they had, it backfired. That was awful. That was awful. I'm not saying this should have been a DQ finish, but, it's pretty obvious that Tony Khan's insistence on not having DQ finishes hurts more matches than you can think of. Sometimes a match should end in a DQ. Again, I'm not saying there, but what happens is if you don't have a good finish, sometimes a DQ may be necessary. But there, like I said, are the referees that stupid? You see the hair coming out, even the announcers. I mean, the announcers, in my opinion, I'm not telling them how to do their job, but if it's so obvious that it's the guy and the referee is acting like he knows nothing, I wouldn't even say it on TV because it looked awful. And Cash gets pinned. He's not the legal person. You could see on Dynamite that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to come out and say that the legal man was not pinned and we'll probably have another match. This match was so obvious that the Lucha Bros were winning because AAA titles were not on the line. Out of all the matches, we knew that there was no way. Yeah, 16 years with Eddie, Conor, McGregor fans. 16 years. It's crazy. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy that it's been 16 years already. Time flies. Yeah, I agree with you. Welcome to the family. Don't kill friends. That is he or she, his or her login. Or, excuse me, or they or them. Because the other day, somebody got mad at me and sent me a DM because I referenced this person and I said, oh, he agrees with me. I think you should look at my profile. I do not reference myself as he or him. I reference myself as they or them. I apologize. Wasn't intended to be offensive. Anyway, the more I think about that, I respect that. People want to identify themselves as non-binary, but I'm not a psychic. I have no idea. If you eat your M&Ms with plain or peanut, if you identify yourself as he, she, it, they, who, why, when, yeah, I know. So anyway, so you see this feud's going to continue, but that finish was awful. A fun match that honestly should have ended right there with the frog splash. There would have been no problem if we had 2 tributes to Eddie tonight. But as we realized later on, that's why the Lucha Bros didn't win with the frog splash. We needed to save it for Dan Lambert. I'm going to fart the more I think about that. Miro versus Bryan Danielson. Let's go, Miro. Miro sucks. Let's go, Miro. Miro sucks. Later on, not a lot of fans were doing this, but very audible boos for Bryan Danielson later on in this match. And here's where Tony Khan needs to be very careful. And I think a lot of you out there will agree with me on this. You look at a lot of the wrestlers who have come in that AEW has put on a pedestal. And the only time anybody loses is if they're placed in a tag team with someone else and someone else gets pinned. I remember not too long ago, we had Brandon Cutlet, I think, team up with Adam Cole or somebody. And we were all like, oh, Cutlet's going to get the pin. And sure enough, that's what happened. Then Bryan Danielson teamed up with someone. I don't remember who it was. Maybe the chat room will remind me. And I don't know if Bryan Danielson had a loss, but he didn't get pinned. And then they had a match with him and Omega that went to a time limit draw, which was fabulous. It was fabulous. It was Cutlet and Omega. Okay. But my point is, you look at the top of the top as far as the talents go, there's no losses with any of these guys. And you have someone like Miro, who has been in AEW now for over a year, that has reinvented himself, that has nailed it in the ring, has been, just killing it in the promos. And then, yes, he's filling the spot for Jon Moxley. But as the match went on, you saw more and more people out there that were like, I wish Miro would get this. I wish he would get it. And you could hear it audibly that when Bryan Danielson, I don't care about his weight. Bryan Danielson is $195. Miro is like 290. So it's a big weight difference. Bryan Danielson has proved that he could be $175, like Rey Mysterio, and he's fine. He could hold his own. But there were points in the match that Bryan Danielson would be getting offense, and the fans were not having it. A lot of fans, not a majority, but a lot of fans, audible enough. So what we end up having is early on, Bryan Danielson puts a knee bar on Miro, but Miro's got a leg taped up. And Bryan Danielson, even Jim Ross still makes that mistake. Bryan Danielson is not working the injured leg. He's working on the other leg. Miro, at one point, to show you how strong he is, he reversed a takedown with a deadlift, gut-wrenching, and gut wrench, like almost like a power bomb on Bryan Danielson. I corrected myself at that time. Funny point where Miro started getting really frustrated that Bryan Danielson kept kicking out. And he was like pointing to God, like, what the fuck you doing? I don't think he was pointing at Eddie. A lot of pointing at Eddie tonight, and deservingly so. But we did have, and this was pretty cool tonight. There were not many matches that did not get This Is Awesome chants. This point, we have 3 matches on the main pay-per-view, 3 matches that got This Is Awesome chants, this one included. Bryan Danielson hits the label lock, and Miro breaks out of it. Now, remember, they were doing something where Bryan Danielson was going to win with a different move every time. So we get a triangle choke by Bryan Danielson. Miro simply rakes Bryan Danielson's eyes to break out of it. Now we're getting the dueling chants. Let's go, Miro. Let's go, Bryan. Let's go, Miro. Let's go, Bryan. You look up close to Miro's head, the left side of his head. He's got a big welt on his head. And I think it's those punches in the corner because they started really going at it. Towards the end of the match with them trading the punches and the slaps, that's not something you normally see at WWE. I guarantee you Vince would be cringing. You saw Miro, the way he was connected with Bryan Danielson in his head. I think Vince would have been cringing at that. So what ends up happening, towards the end of the match, Miro was taunting Bryan Danielson. And every time Bryan Danielson would nail like 3 shots, Miro would nail him at 1 and take him down. Here's Don't Kill Friends. Longtime listener, used to frequent it. Oh, Matt Militia. Okay. Matt Militia. I remember the name. Shout out to you, my friend. Matt Militia. I think some of you out there remember Matt as well. Very cool. Glad you're here tonight. Hang out for a little while. How long we've gone? We've already gone an hour, everybody. As crazy as it sounds, we've already gone an hour. So we'll start speeding up a little bit. Because after this match, I think we had a little bit of complaints. Not too much. But towards the end of the match, Daniel Bryan would hit like 3 kicks. And then Miro would hit 1. Bryan Danielson would go down. This happened like 2 or 3 times. Bryan Danielson would hit 3 shots. Miro would hit 1. Bryan Danielson goes down. Then they go to the corner. They go to the middle rope. And Bryan Danielson ends up hitting a super DDT. And I guess the story was that Miro was knocked out by the DDT. Because when Bryan Danielson put on the guillotine, Miro did not tap. He was unresponsive. And the referee called for the bell. The commentator said that Bryan Danielson won by submission with the guillotine, but technically that's not true. Technically, the DDT off the rope, supposedly, in storyline, knocked out Miro, and that's how Bryan Danielson won. If you go back and you look at the crowd reaction after Bryan Danielson won, I mean, he got, a lot of positive reaction. There was a decent number of people that were doing this. And again, I think this goes back to respecting and appreciating those who have been there longer and have really committed to really working their ass off and giving top-notch entertainment. And I think that applied to Eddie Kingston tonight and applied to Miro for sure. And I think it applied in some ways with Pac. So we'll talk about it. So Bryan Danielson is now the next contender for the heavyweight title. And it's going to be interesting. You know, him and Adam Hangman Page. The big question is, does Kenny Omega get a rematch out of this, and will they turn it into a three-way? That is possible, especially after the draw that Kenny Omega had with Bryan Danielson. This was a very good match. Very good match. I think the outcome was, no question, Bryan Danielson. But at this point, people were a little concerned about Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega because, wait, we're going to have two baby faces face each other? I think people just needed to let it play out a little bit. All right, next. Okay. I don't even know how to dissect this. This was a Falls Count Anywhere match. Adam Cole and the Young Bucks are in wrestling gear. Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, and Christian are in jeans. And by the way, the gear that Adam Cole and the Young Bucks had, bright, almost like pink. In fact, I think Jim Ross even said that Adam Cole looks like he is at a, I don't know what he said. He said something about Bret Hart. He was wearing Bret Hart colors or at a Bret Hart convention or something like that. I thought that was pretty funny. Dominic, I agree with you. I love the Eddie Guerrero tributes tonight. I had asked someone if they were going to, mention them and, person, like, of course they are. So the opening match of this match, they started brawling almost immediately. Adam Cole was the first to grab a weapon, which was a chair. There was a fun moment where the chair is center in the ring and Jungle Boy's in the ring and he takes out the Young Bucks, and in the process, he falls back into the chair and sits in the chair for a moment. It was very smooth. Adam Cole takes him down with a leg shot to Jungle Boy's chest. Then we get Christian Cage drops Adam Cole onto the chair. Adam Cole gets busted open. Big time. Adam Cole got busted open tonight. CM Punk got busted open tonight. I think Matt Jackson got a little bit of red, and Hangman Page a little cut as well. I don't remember if anybody else did, but Adam Cole was bleeding pretty good in this match. This match, I think a lot of people also said it felt like it went way too long. Totally unnecessary to have Brandon Cutler involved. Totally unnecessary to have Michael Nakazawa involved. There was a couple of points that got a little bit corny. There was one point where Adam Cole is in the ring. Christian sets him up for a concerto. Jungle Boy is in the ring with Christian. So Christian gives Jungle Boy the chair and he says, I want you to hit the concerto onto Adam Cole. So Jungle Boy grabs the chair and he's looking the other way. And in the process, the Young Bucks take Christian, pull his legs from underneath him so he falls in the ring. Then they pull him out. Jungle Boy is standing literally 6 inches away from Christian and he acts like he don't hear nothing of Christian being taken down. It just came off stupid. So Jungle Boy doesn't hit Adam Cole with the concerto. Then we get another awful moment that I don't know which one annoyed me more. Junior Dos Santos with what I said earlier, with Jericho on the rope, which we will bring up again, or what Cutler did. We started having everybody brawling up the rampway. we get a really cool move with a step-up Conrana by Jungle Boy, putting Adam Cole through a table outside the ring. And the crowd is chanting, holy shit. And Matt Jackson then proceeds with an elbow drop outside the ring and puts Luchasaurus through a table. And Luchasaurus is out for several minutes. So they brawl up the rampway, and Jungle Boy is up the rampway, and I think Nick Jackson is brawling with him. And Brandon Cutler has got that spray, the cold spray. I swear to you, go watch this back. If I ran that promotion, I would take that guy off of TV for a couple of months minimum, just for this one spot. Remember when I told you all this story that I worked an indie event once? I bought a bottle of air freshener, Wizard air freshener. We did a show in Spanish Harlem, and I bought a bottle of air freshener in a bodega. And when I came out, I was managing, it was Homicide and someone else. I think it was Homicide and Reefer. And it was against Sandman and Raven, I believe it was. And what happened was I had the air freshener, and when I walked around ringside, I was just spraying the air around ringside to make it seem like all the people from Spanish Harlem smelled like shit. And it worked. Fans were pissed off. I've been asking Mr. Big publicly, please, I'll pay you for that footage. So anyway, later on in the match, Sandman is in the corner in the ring. And my job is to go in the ring and pretend like I'm trying to spray him. But I'm pushing a button and the spray's not coming out. Yeah, look, great example. And this was not planned. See that? This is odor defense. I don't smell, but see, I got my finger. Here's the button. You see that, right? I had to make sure I didn't just spray the lens by mistake. All right, so Sandman is in front of me, and I'm going like this in the ring, and then I go push down, and I'm like, and nothing is coming out. And I deliberately, again, I go, nothing's coming out. And obviously, I'm not going to spray myself in the face. I'll just point it this way. But I'm going like this, and it's not coming out, and he starts having his look that he's going to beat the shit out of me. And as I turn the thing around, I'm like, and I get it all over my eyes. Next thing you know, he starts caning me. I scream like a little bitch. I run under the ring, and I took a shit under the ring for later on in the night. I had to go. I was under the ring for 15 minutes. I had to take a shit. There was a shopping bag there. I took a dump in the bag. So that's what we did. Cutler tonight, Nick Jackson is holding, I think, Jungle Boy or Christian, whichever one he was doing. And all Brandon Cutler was supposed to do is accidentally spray Nick Jackson with the spray. So what does Brandon Cutler do? I swear to God, he starts spraying it in Nick Jackson's eyes. He's shaking his head like, oh my God, oh my God. But he continues to keep pushing the button. He's doing this. I swear to fucking God, if Jim Cornette does not rip this guy such an asshole that is bleeding, that guy should be taken off TV immediately. It was awful. Little things like that piss me off because this is $1 million companies, and someone in that kind of a position, I think I accidentally sprayed the lens. I know it's fine because it's kind of dark, but when the show's over, I got to clean the lens later. That stuff smells good. It's odor defense. It's supposed to kill odors. So that was awful. But not to the fault of the guys that were in the match. So what ends up happening, we get a spot. Now, it wasn't as high as it appeared, but it kind of gave me flashbacks of New Jack. We got Cutler and Nick Jackson on the floor because of the dumb shit with the spraying, and Christian climbs to the next level of the Target Center, and he does like a flying body press off the second section onto Cutler and Nick Jackson. It looked great. It looked great. I mean, Christian can still go. Crowd loved it. I loved it. Then we get another cool moment where Jungle Boy is getting his ass kicked. And Adam Cole is in the ring with Jungle Boy, and the Young Bucks bring in a bag of thumbtacks. And instead of putting them all over the floor, they grab handfuls and they put it in Jungle Boy's mouth. And then the first thing they do is they do the pose where the Young Bucks are kissing each cheek of Adam Cole, and Adam Cole has him in like the camel clutch, and Jungle Boy's got a whole bunch of thumbtacks in his mouth. Then the Young Bucks super kick Jungle Boy. So good visual. I mean, even whether the thumbtacks were real or they were plastic, you could accidentally swallow one or two, believe me. So, interesting spot. A ladder is brought into the ring. Crowd is chanting, "This is awesome." Adam Cole attempts a Panama Sunrise, but is dropped pretty hard onto the ladder. Adam Cole took a beating in this match. All this time, Luchasaurus is pretty much, incognito, going to the table a little bit earlier. So finally, they brawl into the back again, and there's like a truss right back where the screens are, and Adam Cole starts climbing it and attempts to hit, I think, Jungle Boy with a Panama Sunrise. But Luchasaurus, actually, I think he hit the Panama Sunrise. Went to pin Jungle Boy, got a 2 count because Luchasaurus broke it up. Then we get the over-choreographed super kicks. Matt Jackson hits a super kick. Luchasaurus hits a super kick. Jungle Boy hits a super kick. You know that happens sometimes in the matches. Another spot, at this point, people are like, this is going way too long. It almost feels like, Tony Khan wants to reward everybody going into a pay-per-view where everybody gets a very long match. Sometimes matches don't need to go as long as they did. They did a spot where Adam Cole brings a bag, takes it out, and there's 3 knee pads, and the knee pads have thumbtacks sewn in them. So they put the knee pad on, thumbtack sticking out, the needle parts are sticking out. It looks pretty vicious. Until you realize that they did it to Luchasaurus. Number one, if it connected at all, it went into a plastic mask. And number two, if you look at least one of the Young Bucks and Adam Cole, they totally missed his head. So it would have been a cool moment. Then after they did it, they pulled the knee pad all the way down. So it was kind of It was kind of But somehow after this, Jungle Boy gets the best of all 3 teammates in the match of the Young Bucks and Adam Cole. Luchasaurus chokeslams Adam Cole off the stage into members of the Elite. He hits an awesome-looking shooting star press onto them as well. Even Jungle Boy had this shocked look on his face. And I think Tony Schiavone even said, "Holy shit is right, fans," because the fans chanted, "Holy shit." So finally, Matt Jackson is laid out. Christian sets up for the concerto once again. And now Jungle Boy tells Christian, no, let me do it. So Jungle Boy hits the concerto onto Matt Jackson. Look great. And Jungle Boy gets the pin. So your winners, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Christian. Fun match that probably went about 6 or 7 minutes, way too long. Totally unnecessary to have. By the way, where was Bobby Fish? Why mention Bobby Fish out of all of this? I mean, he should have been very prevalent in this match if they were going to go that route. Yes, Jungle Boy is a star. Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys got it. And good, look, let's say one good thing about AEW as well. They realized the ridiculousness about Marco Stunt. Nothing against him personally. It's a dream fulfilled and everything. But you remember early on how they were using Marco Stunt, and it was just ridiculous. I don't even want to say awful. It's just ridiculous. So now we speed things up a little bit. This match, honestly, Talk to me. What's going on here? All right, we might have to. Why? Okay, we got to let it reset itself. Just give me a second, everybody, because you know me, I'm a stickler to detail. Hang on, I'm just cycling through the pictures so we could get to the next match. It's coming up. We got all right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, next match. Totally unnecessary on this show. As much as people get pissed off, Drew McIntyre and Big E, can they coexist? What do we get tonight? Cody and Pac. Can they coexist? And God bless the people out there that when AEW actually tweeted, can Pac and Cody coexist tonight? People are like, oh, no, they're being sarcastic as a fuck you to WWE. Oh, really? I didn't see any smiley face emojis. I didn't see any winks. And that's how people are going to try to cover this up. They did a can they coexist thing today. Bullshit. Cody comes out for a crazy amount of boos. Arn Anderson got a pop. One thing that I thought that was pretty funny was somebody brought a sign that said Cody solved racism. I'm surprised it actually got in the building. Then we get Arn Anderson beating up Jose. And I thought it was cute when Tony Schiavone said, we haven't seen Arn pissed off in a long time. Now, immediately I'm thinking of the storyline when Arn Anderson melted Cody's ties and all this other stuff. Was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? SRH John, he knows that I'm going to get to it, but he's so happy about a certain outcome tonight. Yes, absolutely. I will definitely get into it in a few moments. Thank you for the $5 too, by the way. Much appreciated. This match, I got a kick out of it when Tony Schiavone said that we haven't seen Arn this pissed off in a long time. And I was saying to myself, tongue in cheek, I'm like, well, that's because you don't have any other managers that are kind of like Jose. Arn Anderson hasn't been pissed. Does anybody forget like the storyline for the last month and a half? Anyway, Arn Anderson going up the rampway on a vendetta to Jose as if you just stole the dinner from Arn. I mean, it was just kind of ridiculous. But this match, honestly, fell flat. This was, I think, the first match that did not get an awesome chant tonight. Basically, Malachi, great entrance, great work. Andrade as well. Pac did great. Cody didn't do bad either, but the problem is this match felt like a Rampage match. It felt like a Dynamite match. And the best way I could describe this match, Malachi Black is, and if you go back and watch it, it looks horrible. Cody is outside the ring. Camera side, outside the ring. Pac wants to dive over the ring onto Malachi Black. Malachi Black nonchalantly walks up to Cody. And if you go back and you watch it, you could even laugh, and Cody could have turned around and been like, hey, how you doing? Hey, you want to go to Applebee's after? You know, hey, but how's the girl? They were just standing next to each other. I thought Malachi Black was going to enter the ring. They were on the same side, and they were literally this close to each other. So what happens? Pac dives over the rope. Malachi Black pulls Cody in front of him. Pac lands on Cody. And this is where it gets horrendous. Go back and watch it if you think I'm exaggerating. Pac dives over the rope, lands on Cody. Okay, fine. Andrade hits a poison rana onto Pac. Cody, within 15 seconds, is back in the ring, breaking up the pin attempt. You just got taken out by your partner in storyline. Within 15 seconds, he is in the ring, breaking up the pin attempt. It was fucking awful. So Pac ends up getting the upper hand on Andrade. He hits the black arrow. Beautiful. Gets the win. And to almost divert attention almost immediately, here comes Dax to attack Pac. Dax attacked Pac. And Cody it was just awful. This match, just Cody and Pac did not need to win. Again, a match that should have ended where Pac inadvertently took out Cody. Pac goes back in the ring. Andrade and Malachi, either one of them could hit a move onto Pac, get the win. And if you want it, why even sell the coexist shit? And then Pac takes out Cody. Cody doesn't even, now I can almost guarantee on Wednesday, Cody's going to suddenly be upset at Pac. You dived onto me. Oh, what did you have, an aneurysm that you didn't know that happened tonight on the pay-per-view? I guarantee you, there's a good chance that Cody is going to confront Pac about what happened on the match tonight. It's just, it was awful. This match had no business being on this show. Literally 3 days before the pay-per-view, they announced this match again, and Cody gets a win. I mean, think about what I said earlier. If the guy was on TV having matches all the time, that's different. But when the guy gets himself into the pay-per-view, gets a win, it's things like this. And Tony Khan's not going to be honest about it. QT Marshall's not going to be honest about it. Nobody's going to be honest about it in that company. And that fringe element on the left is not going to be honest about it. That's why they're comparing him to Cena and Roman Reigns. George McFly, none of these companies would ever want me to be in their company. Like I said, the best thing some of these companies could use, other than a couple of producers, which can be former wrestlers, is to have some people that could play devil's advocate. This is why I think this doesn't make sense. When you have a whole backstage with family, no, that's a wonderful idea. That's amazing. That's unbelievable. That's great. It sounds great. That's awesome. I love it. And nobody says, I don't know about this, that. You think anybody in their right mind, when they're getting paid, that they're going to turn around and say to their boss? Nobody is. Notice that when some of these new signees are being confronted, they can't even have a little inkling of criticism. Because in WWE, you could criticize Vince, you could go, how many of the wrestlers on the current roster right now go on social media and vent a little bit, and there's no ramifications because they know that WWE is not going to respond publicly. Sometimes because they have the mindset, hey, if you could get any attention out of it, go for it. Look up Mustafa Ali right now and see what's going on. Danish says the match really didn't do much for him either. It was one of those forgettable matches. Absolutely. Definitely does not deserve any more discussion. Moving on. Okay. This is another match. Let's be honest. I don't know if Tony Khan, because of the pressure of people going after him about women's wrestling in the company right now, that, this had to be a 20, 25-minute match. This match at times was a train wreck. And I know the fringe element on the left, how dare, it was awesome. It was excellent. This was Ty Conti's breakout. It fucking wasn't. It was a mess at times. It was sloppy. They worked hard. If that match would have ended 5 minutes earlier, it would have been perfectly fine. But what it felt like to me was that the match was too one-sided, and they insisted that Ty Conti get in some crazy-ass offense. I have to take my glasses off of this one. This way, when she gets Britt Baker kicking out of 2, we got at least 4 times towards the end of the match, Ty Conti going, I can't believe she kicked out. I can't believe it's not butter. When Britt Baker hits a curb stomp on the steps and then puts Ty Conti in the ring again, hits the curb stomp in the ring, and then says, no, I don't want to pin her. I want to do the mandible claw. So what ends up happening? Nothing. The match somehow continues. Then we get an air raid clash for a 2 count. Then we get distraction from Rebel. Jamie Hayter pulls Ty Conti out of the ring. And I'm like, okay, here's the finisher now. Little distraction. You know, Ty Conti is distracted by Jamie Hayter. Rebel is distracting the ref. Here comes Britt Baker. You know, mandible claw, curb stop, whatever you want to do. No, they kept going and going and going and going and going. Ty Conti had her head bashed in on the ring steps. Ty Conti then got curb stomped again. Within 60 seconds, she's hitting all these crazy, almost finishers. This match went about 5 to 7 minutes, way too long. And it just felt like I got to get my spots in. I got to get this in. I got to get that in. The match was fine. But when Britt Baker hit the curve, see, this is what I mean by AEW. You know, people don't undergo some crazy ass surgery that suddenly a belt shot square in the face, you kick out at 2. You get dumped on your head 5 times in a row and you kick out at 2. You get curb stomp on a ring steps and then in the ring and you kick out at 2. You could dump somebody off the Empire State Building straight onto the head. It looks like a bad Roadrunner cartoon and they kick out at 2. Some of it is just way too ridiculous. And Ty Conti is excellent. I don't think anybody out there thought Ty Conti was losing the match. When the commentators say this is Britt Baker's biggest challenge yet, that's the telltale sign that she's got to retain because she just beat her biggest challenge yet. But they just kept going and going and going and going and going. And then Britt Baker wins with the fruit roll-up. The match would have ended 5 to 7 minutes earlier, would have been perfectly fine. But again, it just felt like it was so one-sided on Britt Baker's end that they had to get all this extra offense in on Ty Conti. And to me, it kind of like damaged the match. I think a lot of people will say that the match went way too long. And it almost feels like they insisted that it goes this amount of time. And look, I'm not criticizing Britt Baker, but Britt Baker is still fairly new. And she's no ring general yet. And whatever time that was allotted, obviously they didn't do a great job telling an even story, you know, for the first 12 minutes of the match, because they knew they still had a lot of minutes left. And why in your right mind do you do a curb stomp on the steps and then a curb stomp in the ring and then the air raid clash? And then you're saying but we have 7 minutes left still. And you got the interference at ringside. I mean, do a little like where the referee goes, out of here. You know, like kill a minute or two with that. Suspension of disbelief gets a little bit too over the top sometimes. Not in this match, though. CM Punk and Eddie Kingston, you know, this is the reason why I decided to change the banner to this. Because to me, believe it or not, this was the match I was looking forward to, probably more than anything. I'm surprised people didn't pick up on this. But to me, CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston was like New York pizza versus Chicago pizza. Fuck you, Chicago pizza. That's what it felt like to me. It's New York pizza versus Chicago pizza, just brawling. These guys, as Jim Ross said, what a goddamn fist fight. It told a great story. Look, I've been watching Eddie Kingston for about 17, 18 years. I live in New York. I have been spoiled to watch tons of Eddie Kingston matches. Eddie Kingston, we just had a discussion on Thursday where I said, is Eddie Kingston this current generation's Eddie Guerrero? Not in-ring style, I'm talking about a guy that went through a lot of terrible obstacles and overcame and ended up being one of the most beloved wrestlers of the company. That's all I was comparing it to. And if you thought I was nuts on Thursday, hopefully tonight you understand why I said what I said. CM Punk, by the way, in the comments section later, by the way, tomorrow I'm going to play catch up on all the comments all week. And then tomorrow night, like I said, we'll do a little call-in show. So if you have anything you want to talk about with AEW, tomorrow night's the night to do it. We're going to do a little test run of the sit-down. But, in the comment section later, Chicago pizza or New York pizza? Which one you like more? Deep dish or New York style? Curious. CM Punk comes out. And again, what I was saying is if you thought what I said Thursday was nuts, all you had to do is see tonight's match. Eddie Kingston, it's obvious, everyone. Eddie Kingston is not the most polished wrestler in the world. The guy's not going to have a 5-star match. But what the guy does is little psychological things that works for him. Let's be honest. I'm not making fun of him. I got a tummy too. But you look at his tummy today, and when he starts doing this to CM Punk in the corner of the ring, and then he's doing it until he's tired and he just lays on CM Punk's back, that's probably what you and I would do unless we're in phenomenal shape. When CM Punk is about to do things and Eddie King's like, fuck you. Fuck you. No, fuck you. If you believe it, it feels real. Now, I don't want to get into the whole backdrop because we're already at 90 minutes. I want to start wrapping this up. But for those that don't know, do you remember about a month ago, I played a match, CM Punk versus Ian Rotten? And it was a match from a show that I co-ran. That's why I was able to share it with you. And there was a heavily edited version of it online, and I showed you the moon over Broadway and everything else. When Ian Rotten paid tribute to Chris Candido after the match was over, that was 2005. At that time, when you had Ian Rotten's promotion, CM Punk came through there, Eddie Kingston in that territory, that area, and Delirious came through there, and Homicide and a few others. And the thing is, back in 04, around 04-ish, CM Punk obviously is big time on the rise. In 2005, he get the developmental deal with WWE, and I think he debuted on ECW in 06. Eddie Kingston was still, nowhere on the food chain. And I think Delirious had gotten injured by Eddie Kingston's partner. I don't know the full story, but I think Delirious got injured by Eddie Kingston's partner. And CM Punk had gotten upset at it and talked about their weight, that they're not all that great, and this and that. And that Eddie Kingston, he had a little bit of a grudge over the years. Nothing, I'm sure a chip on his shoulder for sure. They turned it into a storyline. Some of the promo that they talked about, it was based on reality. But Eddie Kingston tonight, it was a flat-out brawl. Couple of moves here and there. CM Punk getting busted open early on, and Eddie Kingston wiping the blood on his face. Crowd was behind Eddie Kingston, big time. There were several times in this match Roman Reigns boos. Now, obviously, Roman Reigns has reformed his character. Now he's the number one guy. But you go back to a little more vintage Roman Reigns. That's what it felt like tonight. CM Punk, I think, was looking around and is like, what the fuck is going on here? He walks out and everybody is singing to his song. And then once the match starts and Eddie Kingston's in the ring, loud Eddie chants, and it wasn't Eddie Guerrero at that time. And CM Punk starts hitting some offense and the crowd is booing the shit out of CM Punk. And again, this goes back to what I said earlier. Eddie Kingston's been there a while. They just read the article about some of his battles. Eddie Kingston comes off as a guy like you and I. And here comes CM Punk, not wrestling for 7 years and is beating everybody. You know, it does rub some fans the wrong way. If Tony Khan is going to try to be very realistic with fans' emotions sometimes, he's got to start taking that into account. Because it's affecting Cody. It affected Bryan Danielson a little bit tonight. And it sure as hell affected CM Punk. Am I wrong? I don't think so. Everywhere else you tune in tonight is amazing, unbelievable, 5 stars. If I die tomorrow, I die happy, wrestling fan. It was incredible, unreal. Tony Khan, you're a god, you're amazing, you're a genius. You nailed it. You're everything in a year. Can you adopt me? Let's be a little bit more, specific about this. Eddie Kingston is a made guy right now compared to some of these other wrestlers. Will AEW give Eddie Kingston a championship? He's not Tommy Dreamer. In Tommy Dreamer, he didn't need a belt in ECW. He ended up getting 1 or 2, but he was a guy that he didn't need a title. When I was a kid, Jimmy Snuka, when he was in WWF, he didn't need a title. In Eddie Kingston's case, I think he wants the title. Not saying heavyweight title, but he wants a title. Roddy Piper never needed a title when he was in WWF. He got Intercontinental. Then later on, I think he got a tag title with Ric Flair, at the very end of his career. But, Eddie Kingston, will they give him a title run for one of these titles? I don't know. We will see. But they brawled, and they brawled, and they brawled, and I loved, like I said, I loved Eddie Kingston with the realism, just wailing on CM Punk's back, and he's so tired after doing it, he's just laying on CM Punk. So Eddie Kingston keep giving CM Punk the finger. Eddie Kingston teases the GTS, but CM Punk nails it. But both are so tired in the brawl, CM Punk doesn't go for the pin, so the crowd starts chanting, "This is awesome," deservingly so. Then we get a knee flurry by CM Punk, and every time he nails a knee, the crowd is booing. Nails another knee, the crowd is booing. And then he hits the GTS, gets the win. After the match is over, CM Punk extends his hand to Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston just walks off. I love it. Eddie Kingston, no, you don't shake your hand like, oh, all is forgotten. All is forgotten. It reminded, if I know this is a stretch, but if Eddie Kingston would have shaken CM Punk's hand, it would have reminded me the way I felt when ECW had its first pay-per-view, Barely Legal. They had a feud, Sabu and Taz, and that feud was a long time for various reasons, but they were going to have their match at Barely Legal. They had the match is over, and after the match is over, Sabu is offering his hand to Taz. Now, it ended up being a setup, but when he stuck out his hand, and then Taz accepted it, and then they hugged, before we realized it's a setup, if you look at everybody at ringside, they're like, it made no sense until it was a setup. So if Eddie Kingston would have done that tonight, unless he would have cheap shotted CM Punk like he did before the match, that's the only way it would have made sense. So Eddie Kingston walking off, this storyline should continue. I hope it does continue. Tony Khan's got to realize, you look at other promotions. Look, he talks about Ring of Honor. He talks about other feds over the years. You go back and you think about Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle in TNA. You think of Bryan Danielson. You think of CM Punk and, whoever. You look at Kevin Owens when he was Kevin Steen. You look at El Generico. Look at those feuds. Look at Owens and Generico. When you hear Tony Khan talking about these legendary feuds that he grew up on, well, how's it about you create some legendary feuds of your own and not have it go long simply because you just don't book it every 2-3 weeks? This match was awesome. As of right now, I still have to say I think it's a little short of MJF Darby Allin. So we're going to wrap this up in 14 minutes, everybody. Minneapolis Street Fight. Inner Circle versus America's Top Team. Andrei Arlovski, Junior Dos Santos, Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page, and Dan Lambert. I was very confused at the beginning of this match because the Minneapolis Street Fight, why are they tagging each other? Why are they holding the ring rope? Then suddenly it becomes a brawl. I could not understand the first couple of minutes. A street fight's a street fight. I mean, they're literally tagging people in and out. But then it got into a brawl really quick. And early on, I was very impressed by Junior Dos Santos. He did a slam, suplex, a standing moonsault. The guy looked like he took this shit seriously. It got a little entertaining at times. They had a whole bunch of weapons, a bunt pan that Tony Schiavone had his fetish over. We had hockey sticks, water skis, footballs. We had tables, chairs, a Prince sign, because Prince, God rest his soul, was from Minneapolis. Say the Prince logo. Dan Lambert had a pipe at one point. It got a little ridiculous. Arlovski pretty much did almost nothing. He kept getting taken out by a toaster. The fucking toaster keep coming into play. Austin, you have no complaints for me. Dan Lambert is an annoying heel. I think if Jim Cornette was 10 years younger, Jim Cornette could take a bump here and there. I think Jim Cornette could have very well have been in that spot, but I don't think Jim Cornette wanted to be in that spot. Dan Lambert, I'm fine with. One crazy spot, obviously we talked about it for a moment earlier, Sammy Guevara, Jesus Christ. This guy, if you think Jeff Hardy, when Jeff Hardy dove off the top of the ladder and went through the table, that's what Guevara did tonight to Scorpio Sky. Shit looks sick. You still get nervous. In this day and age, you still get very, very nervous. When obviously he wanted to create his moment. And thank God he's okay. He's okay. But, man, that spot, I guarantee you somewhere Jeff Hardy's like, motherfucking, I got to share that spotlight with him. And I say that joking around. We had a superplex by Santana and Ortiz to Junior Dos Santos. And honestly, for me, because it was a street fight, you knew the MMA guys weren't going to do all that much. Dos Santos impressed the shit out of me until that spot. And that spot was beyond awful. This is why little things like timing is something that, look, I remember Katie Couric, when WCW was still in existence. Katie Couric did a segment on WCW. Rojo Bear with the 2-spot. I am the toaster. That fucking toaster kept popping up during this whole match. But he kept taking out, Hager kept taking out Arlovski with it. I didn't like the dive with Hager diving onto everyone, and they used that. Let me tell you something. You know what? AEW really needs to improve on? I will say this tonight. Like I said earlier, I didn't want to talk about Rampage yesterday. Matt Hardy versus Orange Cassidy. All right. I know the punches, the midsection, the shot, the brass knuckles. I know people are complaining about it. I didn't have too much of a problem with it because there was Eddie Guerrero reference with it. But I'll tell you this much. What AEW needs to improve is the camera work. If you notice, remember when Chris Statlander dove over the top rope and, like nobody home, no water in the pool. There was nobody around her and somebody fell down anyway. You look at the Dark Order and you see them punching air. Last week or Wednesday, remember the forearms by the MMA guys? Somebody in the back needs to switch the cameras the second you see something like that. The first moment, you got to switch it. The camera work needs some serious improvement. Camera work covers up a lot of this shit. Look at Sheeta. Go back tonight. Sheeta sets herself up perfectly to get squashed in the middle of the ring. That's why people were upset towards the finish, not just Nyla Rose going in the corner. You see on the camera that she's setting herself up to take the move. When Jericho did what he did, I thought it was going to be a swerve. And it wasn't. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, like I said, Katie Couric did a special on WCW once. And they taught her how to do a body slam and something else. She did it perfectly. You could teach someone that's not a wrestler to do a couple of moves. There's no question. But if you don't emphasize the importance of timing, that's where you run into trouble. So what happens towards the end of the match? Lambert is in the ring with Jericho. Jericho's finally getting his revenge on Lambert. And basically Jericho was going to run and do, I guess, the lion salt off the middle rope. Lambert is laid out in the middle of the ring. Jericho runs to the right side of the ring. Junior Dos Santos was supposed to be ready to nail Jericho the minute Jericho hit that rope. If you did not see this pay-per-view, or if you did not notice this, go back and watch it. To me, this is almost as bad as the Dark Order punching nobody. I'm not exaggerating either. Jericho runs to the middle rope, and you hear Jericho going, Junior, Junior. And Jericho stops and has to stand there like an idiot and wait for about 2 seconds for Santos to hit him. It's awful. It was awful. As good as Junior Dos Santos was during that match, what he did at the end, and it's not his fault because he's not a wrestler, but that was fucking awful. That was awful. So ultimately, Jericho gets the upper hand again. Jericho points to the sky, paying tribute to Eddie Guerrero. Jericho does the frog splash, gets the pin. Remember what I said earlier about the Lucha Bros? When Rey Fenix did the frog splash, everybody out there, including me, that's where the match should have ended. But it didn't, because they wanted that spot to be for Jericho. Again, I'm not going to criticize AEW or Jericho for it, but there would have been nothing wrong with 2 matches paying tribute to Eddie. But Jericho did, and his frog splash was pretty cool. Jericho did a pretty good frog splash. Yes, Denise says, I have eagle eyes. I notice everything. I've been like that since I was a teenager watching wrestling. Every little detail. To me, because it's entertainment and because it's an art form, there's no excuse. Think back to Bret Hart, Wrestling with Shadows. If you look at that Wrestling with Shadows early on, and he's commenting about himself, he says, look at my punches. Look at my punches. Every one looks like it connects. I mean, that's an art form. And a little thing like that ruins it. Because especially in this day and age with social media and everything is replay, I guarantee you tonight there's going to be 1,000 AEW botch accounts that are going to be replaying Jericho, running, stopping, yelling out Junior Dos Santos, and waiting for Santos to hit him. Awful. Awful. So now we get the announcement, as I said earlier, with Jay Lethal. He is All Elite. He is now signed to AEW, and he will be taking on Sammy Guevara Wednesday for the TNT Championship. A few people were trying to get me to say, oh, that's like Acme Insta-Feud. No, it's not. He signed to the company, and he wants to challenge Sammy Guevara. I mean, when Cody was the TNT champion, everybody was like, oh, they loved how they would have outsiders come in. Remember how Eddie Kingston? That's how he came in originally. You had an outsider come in and challenge for the TNT championship. A lot of people said, oh, I wish they would bring that back. Well, not only do you have that, but you got a guy that's going to stick around for a little while. So I'm very happy that Jay Lethal is now in AEW. Good signing, AEW. I know there's too many people on the roster, but Jay Lethal is one of those guys that definitely deserves to be there. Is that Eddie? Eddie D23. Welcome to the family, my friend. Much love. Much love. So now we go to the main event. There we go. They had Hangman Page for his intro, riding on the streets of Minneapolis late at night, superimposing some promos, some memories of Hangman Page and AEW. The guy is so fucking over with AEW fans. He might not be the flashiest. He might be very soft-spoken. But I tell you, I'm not saying this. Look, I'm not the biggest Hangman Page fan. But his entrance music, I mean, yeah, Jericho sung his own. But of everybody who is in AEW, I think Hangman Page's entrance music fits like a main event, a champion's music. Like, there's emotion for a lot of people behind that music. That music is just perfect for the guy. I mean, it's got the intro with the bass, and then it really psychs you up. And Hangman Page is a guy that honestly, look, he was my pick to win. Even when I was talking to people early on and they started getting nervous after Bryan Danielson, when I said, no, man, after all this time, there's no other pay-per-view for the immediate future of AEW. They don't do one every month. So there's no way you're going to give this on free TV, him winning the title. So it's now or it's not for a few months. So he takes on Kenny Omega tonight. Gabriella says that Hangman Page is the Clint Eastwood of AEW. That's not a bad comparison. But the thing is, Clint Eastwood, I don't know if any of us were alive when Clint Eastwood was the age that he was, at Hangman's age. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I think a lot of you will agree with me with this. The match between him and Hangman Page tonight, him and Kenny Omega tonight, was extremely, extremely solid. Was it as good as the Eliminator Tournament final last year? I'm not sure. When I think of Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, I think of some of the other matches Kenny Omega's had in the past where people would rate it 6 stars and 7 stars. Tonight told a great story, but to me, it was very organized, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Omega was basically getting his ass kicked for a majority of the beginning to the middle of the match. And look, it worked because it told the story. Because the more Hangman Page kept getting nailed with shots and Don Callis getting involved, the louder the fans got behind Hangman Page. Tonight was about telling a story and not just giving us crazy moves for the simple of sake of having crazy moves. See, like, I'll give you an example. I know this is kind of like a cheesy example, but you go back to the buy-in match. There was a point where Nyla Rose went to pin Sheeta in the middle of the ring. And if you look at Thunder Rosa climbs the top rope, the middle rope. And she's sitting on the middle rope, waiting for Nyla Rose to try to pin Sheeta. And when the referee got to 2, Thunder Rosa dives off the middle rope and breaks up the 2 count. Now, why would you climb up the middle rope, sit there, and wait for the opponent to try to pin your tag partner and then think the best way for me to break the pin up is to dive off a rope? All you got to do is just run up and hit her. Sometimes people do dives for this simple reason to do a dive. It's fun. It's fun. I mean, I've done a couple of dives. It's fun. It's fun taking dives from people too. But tonight, all the moves that you saw made sense. They didn't do outrageous shit simply to do spots. The crowd was emotionally invested in it. Kenny Omega, even though he's turned into a sports entertainer more than anything else, this told a wonderful story. And for the first half of the match, Hangman Page was getting beat down pretty good. The longer it went, the more the crowd got into it. We had an incredible springboard powerbomb by Kenny Omega off the top rope that crowd was just going nuts for. Holy shit chants. Omega hits the BTE trigger for a 2 count. Hits the Tiger Driver for a 2 count. And they were emphasizing that it looked like Hangman Page had fallen, almost on his head. That's where Hangman Page started to get offense again. And he's battling back. Crowd is solidly behind him. And then we get a ref shot. Kenny Omega pulls the ref in front of him. So Hangman Page hits the buckshot lariat into the referee. Now, of course, we don't want to get a DQ finish tonight, so we weren't going to have that. So the referee is knocked out. Now, we all knew at that point the match was not going to end. I don't think anybody thought that Hangman Page was going to win with the buckshot lariat at that particular point. And it does suck with so much interference in matches that people online were just waiting, like, when are the Young Bucks going to come out? When is Adam Cole going to come out? When is Nakazawa and Cutler going to come out? Like, people are expecting it. And that sucks. Especially when you have someone in the caliber of Kenny Omega. That sucks. Because I saw a ton of people like, okay, when is everybody going to come out? They didn't do anything where Tony Khan says that nobody is allowed at ringside. They didn't do that. So the referee gets knocked out. And here comes Aubrey Edwards. And honestly, she ran so goddamn fast. I swear to God, you would have thought that she was being chased by rioters. She ran down that freaking rampway as fast as she could. She ends up in the match. Early on, she's tending to the other referee, but the other referee is acting like he just got his head decapitated. So Aubrey Edwards is now your referee for the rest of the match. So Don Callis tries to get involved, but is knocked out by Hangman Page. Hangman Page with the dead eye. Aubrey Edwards counts to 2. Now we just get some absolutely just stiff shots on both guys. I mean, just nailing each other. And it looked like Hangman Page got dumped on his head. It looked like Kenny Omega got, at one point, I think Excalibur said that I think Kenny Omega just got dumped on his forehead. It gets scary sometimes, the way some of these guys land. I honestly, I guarantee you both of those guys are icing up tonight big time on their necks and their backs. But you see it get that close, I don't think fans care if you land on your shoulders instead of landing on your head. It gets a little uncomfortable sometimes the way they land. And the last thing you want is one of those guys to get injured. But didn't seem like anybody got injured. And matches now coming to a close because we're approaching the midnight hour. And here come the Young Bucks. It was a little odd because they're coming down ringside very slowly. You know, one of them got hit with a concerto. I personally would have rather not seen Matt Jackson out there, period, for the rest of the night. You got nailed with a concerto. 45 minutes later, he's out there. I don't care if he's walking slow or not. But they come out to ringside. Hangman Page is on the right side of the ring. He nails, I don't think he hit the buckshot lariat, but he teased that he was. He got Kenny Omega, he nailed him. The Young Bucks don't interfere. They're just looking at Hangman Page. Hangman Page goes to the other side of the ring. Young Bucks go to the other side as well. This time around, Hangman Page turns around. He looks at the Young Bucks, and then we get a close-up of, I believe, Nick Jackson. Nick Jackson just looks at Hangman Page, goes like that. And basically him saying to Hangman Page, it's time. It's time. So Hangman Page hits the buckshot lariat. Aubrey Edwards counts to 3. Hangman Page is your heavyweight champion. And the crowd loves it. Dark Order comes out to celebrate. I don't know where this story goes from here on Wednesday. What does this do with Kenny Omega? Is Adam Cole now going to be the leader of the Elite? Are we going to see a feud with Adam Cole and Kenny Omega? Is Kenny Omega going to get a rematch? Since Bryan Danielson is the next contender, will we get a 3-way? I hope that we get a good storyline out of this. Because, look, when Dax came out right after Cody and Pac won, and they said, oh, the Pinnacle hired Dax. Out of everybody, they hired Dax. You know where that's leading. It's leading to some match on Rampage. It's gotta. When Matt Hardy leveled Orange Cassidy last Wednesday, I wrote on Twitter, and we talked about it on Thursday, and then I deleted it because nobody gave a shit. And I said, oh, here we go. There's the Rampage match. And sure enough, they set up the Lumberjack match for Rampage. Sometimes you get these random run-ins, and they try to explain it with something half-assed. And, oh, Rampage match. So I hope this is the start of them really developing some good storylines. Eddie Kingston and CM Punk especially, and I'll repeat this before we finish tonight. When they had their promo exchanged on Rampage, that should have been on Dynamite. That should have been in front of 1 million viewers, not 500,000. And yes, YouTube had a lot of views. AEW should have replayed that promo exchange on Wednesday, this past week. Nothing against Ruby Soho and Chris Statlander. They were not fighting on the pay-per-view. Did we need 2 to 3 minutes of Chris Statlander and Ruby Soho cutting promos about a match they're going to have in the future? They could have eliminated 2-3 little bullshit things on Dynamite, and they could have replayed that promo. That match was looked forward to by so many people online. It's handed to you on a silver platter. Continue the feud. So I'm hoping that this is the beginning of Tony Khan saying, look, we got some feuds here that could go 3-4 months. Why not? You go back. I see people online, oh, Who would you say is Edge's greatest rival? And a lot of people say John Cena. Oh, who's Triple H's greatest rival? A lot of people may say The Rock. Who's Steve Austin's greatest rival? What I'm getting at is, if all of these guys would have had a one-off and then move on, and then they may have another match down the line, if they just have a one-off, it doesn't become a greatest rivalry. Batista's a good one, too. Triple H is a good one, too. Triple H's best rival's probably Bret Hart. Look at how many times they fought against each other. So I'm hoping that some of these feuds continue. And but that's going to eat up half of Dynamite's time. So look at Darby Allin and MJF tonight. If there was any feud that really should continue more, that should continue. So we'll see what happens. This pay-per-view from top to bottom was awesome. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it an 8.5. I have to take off a little bit because of that Junior Dos Santos bullshit with Jericho. That's not even indie wrestling tolerable. That was horrendous. The Brandon Cutler spraying Nick Jackson, and it's like his finger took he was possessed. I can't stop my finger. He's literally nodding his head and still pumping and spraying Nick in the eyes. It was awful. And the camera's right freaking there. Awful. If I was AEW, I'd edit it out of the replay. For real. That I take off. The women's match, Britt Baker and Ty Conti, went too long. The 6-man tag, Falls Count Anywhere, I think that probably went a little bit too long, but that match was still excellent. I enjoyed that match. Christian, it's fucking great. You know, everybody talks about CM Punk being gone from wrestling for 7 years. So was Christian. If anybody just looks, Christian was gone pretty much the same amount of time. And honestly, I'm more impressed with Christian than CM Punk up to now. But CM Punk is quickly catching up. CM Punk tonight, I enjoyed that match with Eddie Kingston. It was my second favorite match of the night, but MJF and Darby Allin was freaking awesome. Shout out to Jake Hudson. Much love, my friend. Thank you for the buckshot. Thank you for the buckshot. Much love, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate your support. So, yeah, less is more sometimes. But I'm telling you, I'll leave you with what I said before. AEW, Tony Khan's going to be very careful with some of these guys because Bryan Danielson has impressed me the most. And there's no secret. Bryan Danielson was wrestling on WWE shortly before he went to AEW. So it's not like he was out of action for a long time. I mean, yes, he was retired for a little bit, but we already knew what he could do. But Bryan Danielson is obviously doing things now that he was not allowed to do in WWE, and he's trying to reinvent a little bit of his work, and he's doing a spectacular job. But that's probably the reason why Miro, as much as we enjoyed this match, if you could have Bryan Danielson advance, don't put him up against someone that the fans think is a badass right now, who has busted his ass in AEW, reinvented himself, and is probably one of the most over characters as a heel. If MJF is the top heel in AEW, Miro's got to be number 2 and number 3. So maybe Bryan Danielson should have faced someone else. Just because a small group of people on social media says, oh, we can't have Moxley. Oh, Miro. We got to have Miro. That would be epic. That would be epic, amazing. Give us Miro. Give us that. But you don't realize that Miro is so over that it could kind of hurt Bryan Danielson a little bit. Bryan Danielson got booed a little bit tonight. And CM Punk tonight, can't wait for his promo on Wednesday when he acknowledges that the fans, were really behind Eddie Kingston. That should continue. The only thing I hope does not happen is what I said on Wednesday. Hopefully we don't get like 2.0 or somebody else come out there and attack both CM Punk and Eddie Kingston, and then they start tagging with each other, even though that kind of sounds cool, I'd rather see these two guys feud for a few more months. Miguel Casanova, thank you for the 2 double buckshot lariat. He wanted Miro to win. Bryan didn't need to win. I agree with you. I mean, I have no problem with Bryan winning this tournament. The guy has earned the win. His matches have been impressive. It's not like he's just getting by and getting favoritism because of who he is and where he came from. Bryan has earned his wins. It's just that if it was up to me, as much as I enjoyed Miro versus Bryan Danielson, I probably, in hindsight, would have chosen someone else. Someone else where we know that the fans would have gotten behind Bryan Danielson pretty much no matter what. So I think tonight is a little bit of a learning lesson for Tony Khan, that just because someone is a future Hall of Famer and can still go, you know, if they're fairly new in your company and you're having them beat people that have really earned opportunity, could you imagine if Hangman Page would have lost tonight? I mean, I don't think the net would have been all that thrilled about it, you know, and I don't think it would have been enough to say, well, then Bryan Danielson would be the one to take the title off him. You know, they did right in a lot tonight. I think 8.5 is very fair. My favorite match of the night, I'm going to stick with MJF versus Darby Allin, because it didn't need to do all the crazy spots. And, you know, like I said, that takedown by MJF, the backbreaker, and then the takedown, and the fans chanting, "This is awesome," from that sold me. My least favorite match of the night, oof, boy. I don't want to include the buy-in match because that really was not part of the pay-per-view. Least favorite match of the night. I tell you, I feel bad saying this. Probably the women's match, Britt Baker versus Ty Conti. And I'll say this, if that's my least favorite match, you know this was a damn good pay-per-view. Because that match was not bad. It just should have been a little bit better organized, in my opinion. So, anyway, let me know what you thought in the comment section. You know, tell me what you thought of the pay-per-view. And don't forget, if you're not busy tomorrow night, I will be doing a test run of the show that's going to be coming up called The Sit Down. The Sit Down with Don Tony. That's a reference that the mob used to do. They have meetings amongst the families. They have a sit-down discussion. So tomorrow night, we're going to do a test run, about an hour to an hour and a half at the utmost call-ins. Nothing but call-ins. So if you want to call in, you don't have to talk AEW. You can talk about whatever you want. Tomorrow's just a test run. It'll be available for everybody. You don't have to be live. You want to check it out after. And my official move to Blue Wire should be on Monday. It was supposed to go down yesterday. They already started migrating the episodes over. It's not completed yet. Basically what that means is that tonight I do what I did before, but on Monday I'll have to re-upload it a second time. So I have to do double work. But by Monday, Tuesday the latest, I'll be on there. And for those that tuned in on Thursday, you know why we had a good laugh out of it. I mean, it's awesome, but the company that I'm in is, pun intended, pretty elite company. It just looks so out of place. I mean, I showed my fiance today, and she's like, it just looks weird to see my show amongst those other shows that are in that. And look, that network is only about 150 sports shows. So I didn't want to be part of a network that has 5,000 shows. I want to be part of a network that is looking for quality over quantity. So that'll launch Monday or Tuesday, and we'll have some fun with that. And I thank you all. Yes, no, tomorrow, Austin, definitely no 1 hour calls. You know, I mean, I don't want to do what other shows do, which is the norm. Like the person asks the question and then you just disconnect and say, oh, thank you for the call. And then you answer it. I don't want to do that. I may have to with some people. I just, I need just people to keep in mind that if you have a topic or two that you want to bring up, this isn't, here's my 10-minute opportunity to give a rant. You know what I mean? So we'll manage it the right way tomorrow. So it'll be fine. I mean, I have an idea how many calls I'd like to get within that time tomorrow, but it's going to be a test run, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So if you're around tomorrow night, I'll post the preview tomorrow morning. I just got to figure out exactly what time the show's going to start. It's either going to be 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern. So we'll see what happens. But everyone, thank you as always. Much love for joining me tonight. On your way out, if you enjoyed tonight's show, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I don't know if you saw it during the show, but we broke 22,000 subscribers on Thursday. So not only did we announce the deal I signed with Blue Wire, but we hit 22,000 subscribers. We only hit 21,000 about 3 weeks ago. So the fact that so many of you, holy shit, it's 2:25 a.m. This is why I love pay-per-views on a Saturday, because I get to sleep late tomorrow. I didn't realize it was that late. Wow. I thank you even more for hanging out tonight, because I know it's, some areas where you are, it's got to be like in the wee hours of the morning. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to jet out of here. So thank you as always, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Stay tuned. Just check out the community section, the YouTube. I'll post it on Twitter as well. I'll let you know what time we start. The more I think about it, it'll probably be 8 p.m. This way, everybody, if Sunday Night Football is really crazy, it's only going to be an hour or so. So, Dream 101, no, prank calls are not welcomed. And I have ways of handling that. If you notice, we get no prank calls. And I don't think anybody would want to do that, because they would dig themselves a hole pretty quickly. So, all right, everybody. Much love. Thank you, Larry C. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow night. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.